Hey guys, what's going on? It's Rekt Capital. Welcome back to the channel. Are altcoins set for a next leg up? We're going to be focusing on a wide variety of altcoins: Ocean Protocol, Enjin coin, Ren, Swipe, Basic Attention Token, Reserve Rights, HBAR, Hedera Hashgraph, and COTI, or COTI, however you pronounce it, but also Binance coin as well, which is a little bit of a bonus because it's not included in the thumbnail for today's video. So we're going to look at all of those altcoins, the Rekt Capital altcoin special. Let's dive into the update, but before we do, I've published a new newsletter. A new edition of the Rekt Capital newsletter is live, Stock to Flow Deviations, where I look at Bitcoin's historical price deviations beyond the stock to flow model to better understand where Bitcoin could peak. This is part one of the stock to flow series. I'll be looking at the first three stock to flow deviations. So you can see that the stock to flow line here is the brown line right over here, tracking Bitcoin's price, and you can see that Bitcoin tends to follow the stock to flow perfectly over time, but the main thing that I talk about in this newsletter is that the deviations beyond the stock to flow is what's important to us as investors to understand not only where the point of maximum financial opportunity is in downside deviations from the stock to flow, but also where the opportunities of maximum financial risk for holding Bitcoin beyond the stock to flow are. So I focus on these three upside deviations, and in part two I'm going to focus on the deviations towards the upside, the remaining three next week. Feel free to check out the read in the description down below. Plan B approves. He's retweeted this newsletter, so feel free to check it out, and of course sign up to the newsletter for part two next week. Really cool stuff. Enjin coin has broken out from a range that has historically compressed price. It's held price inside this range for a long time, and every time we've broken past this range, this green area, we've seen overextensions towards the upside. Well, we're seeing the same thing happen right now. And this is basically a pathway that I outlined on Twitter, which has already taken place, of course. What we need to bear in mind right now is that we are in this range right now, and this has of course rejected price. So could we see a return towards the blue level right over here, because this is now the range low, this is now the range high. Holding support at the blue level right over here, should we get there, is going to be a very positive thing for sustained bullish momentum, which should enable price to revisit these red highs once again, because in a downtrend, price rejecting from this red level and then reaching the blue level, that wasn't really a good thing for Enjin coin's price, because this support was weak in a downtrend. But we're in an uptrend right now, and a pullback into here would be a great dipping opportunity in terms of Enjin coin's price, which should precede a further challenge of these red highs. So we're just in this accumulation range at the moment, or at least a phase of reaccumulation where after the uptrend we're going to see some sort of consolidation before the next move up, should of course this area, this range, continue to hold. That's about it for Enjin coin. What about Swipe? This is a chart that I've shared a few weeks back. The main thesis here is that in the green area, we tend to see a lot of consolidation in Swipe's price action before we see a strong breakout towards the upside. Well, now we're seeing this consolidation go on once again, pretty much a mirror image of what's going on to the past. History essentially repeating itself. We're seeing consolidation here, and of course, it's inside a 30% range. So this being the range low, this being the range high, we tend to see 30% or 36% rallies in between this range. We've seen it a few weeks back, and then a few weeks back as well. So lots of consolidation, but it's a volatile consolidation. Consolidation inside a 36% or so range. So we are moving sideways theoretically, but it's a great trading range for short-term traders to make the most of. But what I'm going to be watching for is these two pathways. The more bullish pathway, of course, would be to break past here and then test the top of this box as a support to enable further upside towards the next black region. And we've had 2 fake outs already, which is why it's so important to have this sort of price movement take place for a more sustainable uptrend, because we're going to see lots of FOMOers beyond this area. We've seen it already, and we'll see it probably again in the future should we fail to claim this top green box as a support. Really important that that does that, but this is the more bullish version for Swipe. What I'm going to be watching for is this more controlled blue pathway, because that seems to be the case at the moment. We're seeing that happen. We're going to see some consolidation before further upside, but it's looking like this is a period of reaccumulation after an initial uptrend, a period of reaccumulation which should translate into further upside later on. It's just a matter of how long will it take? Will it take a little bit more time via the blue pathway, or are we going to see the bullishness intensify and follow the green pathway? Binance Coin at the moment is retesting its old all-time highs on the BTC pair right over here. Fantastic to see this sort of curling up in price action. Now we just need to see this area breach, because we're seeing a bit of rejection from here. This candle-bodied resistance. A bit of rejection here, but breaking past this region should give us some positivity into seeing further upside from Binance Coin. But so far so good. Needs price strength confirmation at this old all-time high support, and continued strength here is going to be a good thing for Binance Coin going forward. COTI has had a phenomenal rally since the green era. This is where I mentioned it in the newsletter, in the Rekt Capital newsletter a few months back, and what a phenomenal rally it's had. It's successfully tested a previous resistance, broken into its weekly range right over here, broken into it, tested it as a support right over here, broken back towards the range high, deviation, and now a rejection. We're still in this range, that's all. Really, even though we've seen FOMO buyers get trapped here and lots of sell-side pressure occur in this region, we're still in this weekly range. And as you can see in history, we tend to see deviations beyond this range. And it's just really important that, of course, if we see consistent rejection here, we're probably going to see a revisit of this level right over here. This is going to be the next support to watch out for should that rejection really translate into price. But if we do see some sort of sustained bullish momentum at these highs, turning this red level into support would be interesting for a revisit of this blue level. So, key fork in the road for COTI, but it's had a phenomenal rally with really little pullbacks. To be honest, we haven't seen a red candle in COTI's price action in weeks, so really need to bear that in mind when considering COTI's price action. Not to rush into any positions until we've seen some sort of sizable pullback, should we indeed get it. And as long as we continue to hold below this red level, then we'll probably see some sort of pulling back in the short term. Hedera Hashgraph is another coin that I covered in the Rekt Capital newsletter. It had sinusoidal price action right over here, and it essentially repeated this sinusoidal price action where we saw a rejection twice from this 18-cent region. 2 rejections, but a curl up into new all-time highs. And the most important thing to bear in mind here is that we are now going to try and retest this level, this red level, as a new support. So essentially the top of this sinusoidal pattern, we're going to try and retest that as a new support, and successfully doing so, we'll probably see HBAR once again challenge for all-time highs and a chance at price discovery. Basic Attention token has broken out from its multi-year triangle formation. So we've seen this formation just form itself over many years, and when we tend to see multi-year market structures develop like this, breaking out from them results in multi-year, or at least long-term, new macro trends. And we're seeing this new macro trend for Basic Attention token take place right now. We had a fantastic breakout, fantastic retest, picture perfect, and now we're just seeing trend continuation. Most important thing at this stage is, can we break past this region over here? Because that's going to really open up price action to some really interesting highs. 91 cents being the next major resistance and $1 something being the next one. So you see a lot of volume gaps, lots of upside for basic attention token upon breaking that really key region. There is a lot of upside because of the lack of sellers in those price regions. So we've already seen basic attention token pull back and retest this 65 region before rebounding into 74 cents. We've seen that occur already, and we're just essentially seesawing inside this range. But if we do indeed once again have this black pathway repeat itself, then we're just seeing a range here, and these are going to be the trigger points for upside continuation and for downside continuation as well, from a breakdown into this region, and a breakout from here would probably see price go towards this region. Very simple. But at the moment, basic attention token is holding up quite nicely after a phenomenal rally, which hasn't essentially really depleted the valuation it's gained. It's maintaining the highs, which is a positive sign at the moment. Really important to pay attention to these trigger points going forward. REN right now is in an interesting spot because it had a phenomenal rally a few weeks back, rejected from this red level right over here, and it's been shedding valuation for 3 consistent weeks now. And the thing that I'm going to be watching for is this blue level to hold as a support as step 1 in an otherwise 3-step process in its pathway. Really important to see this hold as a support, and in fact we're seeing long downside wicks getting shorter and shorter each passing week, which might indicate some slowing in the sell side momentum. So far the outlook is quite good on this support holding for REN to curl up and break out past this red level and sustain this breakout power and strength by rallying towards the upside, but then claiming this level as a support, because that's ultimately what would enable a nice rally for REN going forward. And Ocean Protocol has had a great rally as well, also covered on my Twitter. Basically, I'm going to be watching for this range to sustain itself. At the moment, you're seeing Ocean peak below that range, but the week is young, it's only Tuesday, it could still turn itself around. I just want to see this blue pathway take place, because this is essentially the area of resistance that needs to turn into a support, because if it can do that, it'll be an interesting range for traders to make the most of, because we tend to see green to blue, green to blue, green to blue over and over again. It's a great trading range. At least this is a great coin to have traded in 2020, late 2020, which I also covered at the time on my Twitter. And it's something to bear in mind, because that would be a phenomenal range for Ocean to be a part of. So let's see how it goes. We tend to see downside volatility below this range. Just watch out for these wicks, right? But important to see the weekly candle close inside this green area to just confirm that the bottom of this range, the green area, is now a new support rather than a resistance, which at the moment it is a resistance. So I like this candle to just sink back in and test this area as a support to follow through on the blue pathway. And having said that, guys, that's about it for the altcoin special for today. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course like the video if you enjoyed today's episode. Feel free to check out the Rekt Capital newsletter in the description down below in the Rekt notes. Feel free to check it out, because it is an interesting, insightful piece that took me a while to compile, but it has so many interesting findings about these deviations. And in helping you time the Bitcoin peak, it is part 1 at the moment, but part 2 is coming very soon. Feel free to stay tuned for that one. I'm going to make a video on this very newsletter in the coming days, so stay tuned for that video. And having said that, I'm Rekt Capital, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak to you soon.